I started. Let's see here. I'm gonna start. Let's see here. It's on. I'm gonna start. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi wa salama tasliman. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa wa salamu ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. Amma ba'd. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, I seek refuge in Allah from the rejected shaitan. May Allah bless our master, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, companions, and give them peace. All praise is due to Allah, for he is sufficient for us. Peace be upon his slaves, whom he has chosen. As to what follows, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of the Half Your Deen Show with myself, Samira Abdullah, and our co-host, Imam Naim Abdullah. He will be joining us shortly, but before we get started, I want everyone to, as I always do every week, to thank Allah for our many blessings, whether we deserved it or not. Thank Allah for them. Alhamdulillah. Here we go. And just, just be grateful for those things that, couldn't be possible without Allah. Like, we have no control of anything that we possess. We're not, we have no say in what we are endowed with, but we do have the capability to give thanks to Allah, mashallah. Wa alaikum salam to barakatuh, Brother Khalifa. Thank you for joining us. So please do not forget, don't get laxy, don't get comfortable. Thank Allah, because, things happen so fast, and given that time is not on our side, don't waste any not giving thanks to Allah. Wa alaikum salam to barakatuh, Brother Isa. Thank you for joining us. Please share this video. Share it. Share with a friend. Share with family. They don't have to be Muslim. None of these shows is just for Muslim. I hope y'all know that. This show is for everyone. Now, for non-Muslim is able to benefit someone who doesn't have the same belief as us and they want to learn. We welcome those who are curious or would like to know, about us and what we're all about. Because sometimes, we assume people have a lot of, not even not a knowledge, but you would think they would know certain things and they may not know. Okay, they may happen to get information from somebody on their job by observing them, not talking to them directly, but just by their actions. That's why we have to be mindful how we interact with people, especially if that are not the same faith as ours, because our actions are a reflection of everyone else, whether we like it or not. So if you acting just like everybody else, a non-Muslim is going to say, hey, why would I want to be Muslim when I can do the same thing? They doing the same thing I'm doing. What's the difference? So just be mindful of that. Don't underestimate, the power that you have, the influence that you have. You may help someone, with your character and adab, Adam slash, equal character, mannerisms and such, that might encourage them to look more into the deen of Islam. Now, it's not up to you to make them Muslim, but your character, how you act, how you carry yourself, will make a great impact on that person. I know for me it has, mashallah. So come on in. Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sister Sakina. Thank you for joining us. Now there is when I post the show up and I tag people, please don't feel left out. If you want to get tagged so you can be informed, I don't like to just tag people, just be tagging you. And I may, be in contact with you, but I don't want to assume that you want to be tagged in the post. So I've done that. I did that on purpose. I tagged the people I know don't have any problems with that. But if you want to be tagged, to the, the notification of this show, please let me know. I'm not trying to leave anybody out. So I don't want nobody have any feelings.
I do the same thing. Like, I try not to tag anybody, with anything. Like, some people just go down their friends list and just tag everybody. I don't do that. Like, I don't just assume that people want to get tagged and stuff, right? So if any of y'all, same thing with me, if any of y'all want to get tagged in anything that I'm doing, let me know. I'll tag you. But, I don't like, spamming people and all that type of stuff.
Go ahead and say a few words before we get started, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody, especially my brother Isa. Abdul Zahid. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. He gave me the greetings first. Alhamdulillah. I'm glad you all are here participating with us. Alhamdulillah. This is the first Friday. I keep saying Friday. Every time I say that, I say Friday. Because technically it is Yawmul Jummah, because, the day for us starts at Maghrib. But, today's the first Thursday of the month. And, we try to be consistent with certain themes every week we come on. And the first Thursday of every month, we usually try to dedicate our theme somehow, some way to Africa or what have you. But this week is going to be a little bit different because, yes, it's connected to Africa and all of these things. But, February has been recognized by a lot of us as Black History Month. And so our next few topics are going to be in the area of Black history and really this theme that we have today, which is reviving and reconnecting to our tradition. And I don't want people to feel like, okay, I'm not Black, so this ain't got, I'm not going to find any benefit in this, or I'm not American and I'm not going to feel any benefit in this. I believe if you stick around, you'll find that it'll be very beneficial and very informative for you, inshallah. Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah. No, Sister Sakina, we're not on Instagram. Us old folks.
Speak for yourself. I'm on Instagram.
Well, I am on Instagram. Our page is not on Instagram. Maybe it's a good idea to start an Instagram page for a Half Your Deen show. What you think, Imam?
Yeah, but the platform we use, StreamYard, they don't stream directly to Instagram.
Oh, okay. So we can just do announcements. We'll see. We'll work. I'm gonna say I'm not Black, so I ain't gonna find any benefit in this. I'm out.
I was gonna say something, but I ain't gonna say that. I ain't gonna say what I was about to say. Shout out to Sister Zainab. Alhamdulillah. Farouk. Wa alaikum salam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Welcome, brother Imam. Not Imam, brother Farouk, mashallah. I saw Imam. I was looking at the word Imam, and I said, welcome, Imam. Alhamdulillah. As you know, this is Black History Month, right? February has been designated Black History Month. But you know, we make Black history every day,
Anybody who connects to us knows that.
every day, every day. Okay. So don't, we do this, the month, in the month of February, remind ourselves about the great achievements, black people have, in general. But let's get out of that mindset. It's not just in February. Okay. So we're trying to broaden this because this will help you appreciate every day. Just like Ramadan, Ramadan come in, every year. And then, we wait till Ramadan to get our stuff together. All year round, you're supposed to be preparing for Ramadan. Ramadan is when the time that you seek the rewards of all that worship and ibadah and the beating to Allah and doing good. That's when Ramadan was supposed to, be about. So treat this month as such, not just to recognize everything in this month, but let it continue outside of that so we can get, gain full benefit. MashaAllah. Wa alaikum salam to the Katu, Sister Hen, Sister Rakaya, Brother Stephen. Thank you for joining us.
Alhamdulillah, 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 alhamdulillah. Nobody told you to mute yourself. Why you just mute yourself? How you know I was ready to say something?
I didn't want the mic to echo. That's why.
But I had my mic on all this time. Did you hear an echo?
No, just want to make sure. How we sounding, y'all?
Wa alaikum salam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Hassan Ali.
Wa alaikum salam to the Katu, Hassan Ali. MashaAllah. Welcome.
I already gave the brother the greens. Why you got to give him the greens? Why are you trying to talk to the brother?
You know what? Don't start no mess. Starting mess.
Wa alaikum salam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sister Anisa.
MashaAllah. Wa alaikum salam to the Katu, Sister Anisa. Who said to be speaking to some sisters? Why you say something first?
Listen, don't worry about it. You spoke to Hassan Ali. I'm speaking to Anisa.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah, that's good.
Thank you, Brother Stephen. Alhamdulillah.
You know, subhanAllah, what you doing over there?
You having a brain fart or something?
No, I don't like that term brain fart.
I can't see no one's comments. Is other people having that problem? Listen.
I'm seeing all your comments.
You know what? If you're tuning on a certain page, you're not going to see all the comments. Most of the comments are on the Imam's page. So if you go to Imam Naeem, you might see all the comments there.
Yeah, because we're streaming on my personal page, as well as the Half Your Deen Show Facebook page, as well as YouTube, our Noodles of Man Institute channel.
Right. So that's what's happening. So if you go to the Imam page, you'll see it. Yeah, go to Imam Naeem's page, Imam Naeem Abdullah page, and you'll see the comments. That's where most of the comments. We just try to share the video just to get the word out. MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
I don't know. That's a good question. Let me see something.
FB always doing something, right?
Yeah.
Always doing something, messing with the algorithm, something.
It's FB that be adding that delay in the stream and all of that. It's FB. I be wanting to do like Insta because a lot of people more. I think maybe Allah knows best. Maybe more people on Instagram as well, but they like, even though WhatsApp. I mean not WhatsApp, but even though they owned by Facebook, they the way the video thing works different.
Mm-hmm.
They got that 1 hour restriction, so it just shut down, and then you got to start another live if it go over an hour and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they always doing something. Shoot.
But alhamdulillah, I really want to start off by mentioning about Islam in this country, and about really what a lot of people don't really understand, know, or appreciate is that when you talk about Black people in this country, as well as Muslims in this country, you're almost saying the same thing. Like a lot of people think that Black people or Africans just started coming to this country as a result of slavery. It's not true. And really, amongst so-called conscious Black people, so-called conscious Black people, you usually have two extremes. You have one extreme that says Black people or Africans came here in large numbers as a direct result of slavery only. And then you have the other extreme that says, I even heard this, slavery is a myth. It didn't happen. And Black people or Africans were here way before slavery. In fact, the natives of America are African, and they were enslaved, or they were, all of us are descendants of the natives in this land. You have two extremes that say that the other group don't exist, right? When the reality is in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is in the middle. You had Africans brought here as slaves. A whole lot of them was Muslim. And then you had Africans who was here before slavery, who came in a few different ways. Some of them came with the European explorers before slavery became the law of the land, and some came even way before the Europeans, right? And I would like to talk about one of them, at least one of these waves. I need y'all to look at that. I'm blocking myself out. So what? I need y'all to look at that map right there. I don't need to be seen, right? If you look at that map right there, this is a map of 3 different khilafats. It's West African Islamic khilafats. One of them is the Ghana Khilafate, the other one is the Mali Khilafate, and the other one is the Songhai Khilafate. And at some point, they overlap each other because history is not neat like the way they make it seem. Like this started, then it stopped, and then this started, this stopped. Real life don't work like that. But that largest area you see over there, not the largest, but that green area is what represents the Malian Empire. And the Malian Empire existed from roughly, according to the Gregorian calendar, 1235 to about 1610. And the reason why this is significant is because the 10th ruler in the Malian Empire is someone that I'm pretty sure most of you heard his name before. His name is Mansa Musa. And just to give y'all some context, and Allah knows best, I don't know, but many of the historians say that this royal family, this lineage of Mansa Musa and the rulers prior to him, traces back to Bilal ibn Rabah, the companion of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, through one of his sons, his 7th son. And they say that Bilal's son, went into sub-Saharan Africa and married there, and that lineage produces that royal family. Allah knows best. I don't know. That's what some of the historians say. But Mansa Musa is significant because, and people are talking about him a lot right now because a few people are talking about making documentaries about him because he's real famous for being, they say, the richest person in human history. Mansa Musa, the richest person in human history. And he was a devout Muslim and he was a Khalifa. He was an Amir. He's famous because of his Hajj. In his Hajj route, and he stopped in Egypt and he gave so much sadaqah that, he caused, a destabilization of the economy because of all the gold he was giving out, etc. That part about him is famous. But when he was in Egypt, and Mansa Musa, he lived from between 1280 to 1337, and these dates are approximate. They say that when he was in Egypt, you had people who were interviewing him, and etc. And there is a Muslim historian named Umari, and according to him, and he has a book where you can find this, and I can't remember the name of the book. And this has been, you can actually Google it, really. It's mentioned in Wikipedia, actually. And also Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick, he mentioned this a long time ago in his book called Deeper Roots. He mentions that Mansa Musa said that I was given authority. He talked about how he came into authority, how he came into power. He was given authority by his predecessor, whose name was Abu Bakr. And now you have to understand, and this is Islam, anytime you have an Islamic leader or Muslim ruler, whenever he leaves town, whether he's going to make Hajj, he's making some other journey, he appoints someone to rule and govern in his absence. The Prophet ﷺ did this. Anytime you read the Sirah, you find anytime the Prophet ﷺ left Medina to go fight a battle or to go do something else, he left one of the Sahaba in charge of Medina. So that's a sunnah. So Mansa Musa said that he was appointed or left in charge by his predecessor, Abu Bakr. He said Abu Bakr sent 200 ships loaded with people, another 200 ships loaded with supplies, and they wanted to see what was on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. And so he did that. This is Abu Bakr before Mansa Musa. Said he did that, and a long time passed, and one ship came back. And he said that we went for a long time, we sailed for a long time, and then we reached a point where the sea was rough. He described it like it was like a running river. And then when all of the ships went into this place, they disappeared. He said he was able to turn around before he got into that and turn back around and went back to the home, West Africa. Again, this is the Mali Khilafate that you see in the green, right? So he narrates to the Khalifa Abu Bakr what happened. Abu Bakr prepares 1,000 ships full of people and another 1,000 ships full of supplies. He leaves Mansa Musa in charge and leaves and never comes back. Why this is significant is because afterwards, all of these explorers, including Columbus, Balboa, and all of them that came by, when they reached the Caribbean and when they reached South America, all of them, without exception, report seeing masjids and seeing the same type of people in West Africa, or what they call people from Guinea, right? They made these reports, or as some of them say, people who worship Muhammad. They report seeing them there. And so we have historical, let me just read something right here. Hold on. This is a book by Amir Nasheed Ali Muhammad out of DC. He has that traveling museum, right? He mentions what I just mentioned here in the beginning. He says, in 1312, African Muslims arrived in the Gulf of Mexico for an exploration of the American interior using the Mississippi River as their access route. These Muslim explorers were from Mali and other parts of West Africa. The brother of Mansa Musa, Abu Bakri, was one of the first to set sail to America from Africa. And then, what was I looking for? I'm just trying to mention a few things. We're not trying to get too deep, but I'm just trying to mention a few things just to highlight that Black or African Muslims were here well before the slave trade. So he has an entry here, October 21st, 1492. Columbus admitted in his papers that while his ship was sailing near Gibraltar on the northeast coast of Cuba, he saw a mosque on top of a beautiful mountain. Ruins of mosques and minarets with inscriptions of Quranic verses have been discovered in Cuba, Mexico, Texas, and Nevada. In Dr. Barry Fell's book, and I remember being in prison, watching a videotape of Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick. This is like almost 30 years ago, right? This is like 1994-ish or something like that. I remember watching this video. And Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick mentioned this book. And I remember using the prison's interlibrary loan to get this book. And basically he says here, in Dr. Barry Fell's book, Saga America, he reports that the Southwest Pima people possessed a vocabulary which contained words of Arabic origin. Dr. Fell also reports that in Inyo County, California, there exists an early rock carving which stated in Arabic, Jesus bin Maria, which is Jesus, son of Mary. Dr. Fell discovered the existence of schools in Nevada, Colorado, and Mexico, right? So Abu Muwadda knows that book. He has the book. I had that book, not in my possession. I borrowed it, just like here in the I don't know if they still do it because we all online now, but I used to be able to go to a library, a regular public library, and if the library didn't have the book, you could do an interlibrary loan and get that book delivered to that library from another branch, another library. A lot of prison systems had that as well. So I got that book from another prison while I was in prison and read it. And what made me aware of the book was Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick's video. So I just want to mention that. And she's mentioned other things just by summary of slaves and African Muslims, not slaves, African Muslims, and the presence of Muslims, most if not all of whom being African, that was proof of their existence in America long before slavery was even established here, or even long before the British even started coming over here, way back even before that. So this is significant only for many reasons, because number one, those Muslims that came here, and they've even done studies like recently. They even done studies showing, because people that make up the popular history that you learn in schools, I don't know if they're still making this false claim now, but they used to claim back in the day that there was, the Africans are not able to make ships that can cross the Atlantic. No, it's impossible. They've even done studies where they reconstructed the types of boats that the West Africans used and proved that it can make it across the Atlantic. So, but in any case, Mansa Musa, the Malian Empire, or the Khilafate. When you talk about the Malian Empire, you talk about the Mandinka people. The Mandinka, or as we used to say coming up, Mandingo, right? But most, they say it with a K, not a G, Mandinka, right? And they, and so if you know, like, many of you know, I go to Gambia a lot. Most of them are Mandinka. And if you look at the green in that map, it covers the areas of Gambia, Senegal, and even goes way further east, right? That's the Malian Empire, who were Mandinka. And so it's extremely important, right? Now, so it's documented and it's proven that African Muslims been here long before slavery, much less before Columbus and the slave trade. And they've even found, there's a book, and I think I have this book. Again, I heard about this book way back in the day from Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick. It's called Africa and the Discovery of America. And they, in that book, he even talks about the gold that they found over here being the same type of alloy that's used in West Africa. And if you know anything about the Malian Empire, that they, one of the main resources they had was gold. They was mining it like it was nothing. The gold. You can come back on, Habibi. And so so that's one, before slavery, before Columbus, Africans, Muslims here. Then in slavery, through slavery, like, it's a good book y'all should get. It's called The Black Book, The True Political Philosophy of Malcolm X, Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz. The author of this book is Dr. Yusuf Naim Klai, rahimahullah. He just passed several years ago. But he traveled and would accompany Malcolm and question Malcolm on several occasions. And this book is really a book based upon a whole bunch of questions he asked Malcolm X. And he has a section here. He says, problem. I'm reading from, if those of you who have this book, I'm reading from page 33. Problem. Does anyone know where the enslaved Africans came from in Africa? Response. Yes. The African states as defined today are not the same as they were during the pre-colonial era. There were pre-colonial empires, not nation states. Thus, both German and French anthropologists have determined that the vast majority of Africans sent to the United States came from areas that were once included in these empires that I just had up on the screen, the Ghana, Mali, and Songhai empires of Africa. Now, if you know anything about any of those empires, all of them were Muslim empires. All of them. And so this is one of the reasons why I always say, when they give these numbers about the percentage of slaves that came over here that was Muslim, and their high numbers is in the 20%, 23%, and all that stuff. In my mind, that's a low ball number. That's like going into the hood, the ungentrified hood, right? And just kidnapping people. And then the news comes on, and the news reporter says, there's been a rash of kidnappings in such and such neighborhood. You can just name any hood, Brownsville, Homewood, wherever you from, right? 40 projects,
Red Hook.
south side of Chicago, Red Hook, right? And 23% of those who were kidnapped was black. You're like, wait a minute, 23%. Them neighborhoods is almost like 99% black. So what did the kidnappers do? Did they go there and they say, hey, we kidnapping people, but we prefer non-black people? Like, what did they do? What did they, how you go in a place that's almost 100% black and kidnap 100 people and only 23% of them was black? Likewise, if you go into Africa right now, and back then, most of these places and areas that these empires comprise of, they are at least 90% Muslim. Not just now, back then. So how do you go to a place and you start bribing local kings and rulers, and they start selling each other into slavery, and then you come to America and you say, yeah, out of the people that we kidnapped, only 23% of them were Muslim. So, even though I don't have any empirical data, my common sense tells me there's a whole lot more than 23% of the people that was kidnapped over here and made to be slaves were Muslim. And then we have a little more than a handful that we know about. Like we have Bilal Muhammad. Can you tell us a little bit more about him?
Bilal Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he was from Africa. He was educated, so he wasn't like a common person. His family raised him to be, to be a scholar. And so at about 14 years of age, he was captured and he was sent to the Caribbean island, the Bahamas. And for about most of his life, I'm forgetting how many years, but he was there a majority of his life, where he eventually became like the head overseer in that place under a slave master called Bell. He had not lost his the knowledge that he acquired when he was younger. He still, he didn't assimilate. He was Muslim. And then eventually he came to the Sapelo Islands down in Georgia, where he still practiced his deen. He had 4 wives. He had about, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me. I think he had like 17 children, but he still fasted. He prayed. He even wrote the Risala, the Maliki text, from memory. And there is evidence of that in the book that the Imam had mentioned on his class this past week, where the author actually came into the comments. Brother Muhammad, may Allah reward him for that. And so this Maliki text is the very same text that we learn today as Muslims. So what I don't understand is that, most of, our brothers and sisters, our ancestors came from Africa, how they leave out that part that they were Muslim. If you notice, if you talk to an Afrocentric person or anyone that's they call themselves Afrocentric, whenever they speak about Black history, about Africa and our peoples and our history, they never, ever, ever mention that they are Muslim. They clothe it under terms like Moors, or just any type of term instead of saying Muslim. They were Muslim, because if they admit that they were Muslim, that's a whole nother story, another show, right? that will, and I don't want to accuse anybody because I'm probably going to offend someone, but that there's an agenda when you don't mention Muslims in your history. John Henry Clark. John Henry Clark, if you don't know about him, John Henry Clark was a scholar of history. He had all that knowledge, but at the same time, he downplayed the role of Muslims in history. That's where he erred. And may his, descendants speak the truth, but you can't leave Muslims out of this history. And our evidence of Muslims being here are on church pews. The Risala that he wrote, Abdur Rahman, what's Abdur Rahman? No, Omar ibn Said, when he wrote the Lord's Prayer, but really it was the Fatiha. And you guess who translated this items? Their slave masters. They recognized their greatness. They recognized the intelligence that they had. Bilali, Muhammad, him and his family, his tribe was recognized by the white people. They noticed that they were a certain breed of Africans. They weren't just anybody. They weren't just shucking and driving. They were, intelligent. They were God-fearing. They held to their deen. A lot of Muslims didn't get to do that. They assimilated. Like you hear the story about Kunta Kinte. He was Muslim. He came here, and eventually, his family line assimilated. They assimilated. And we know there's different reason why, they did that. Because first of all, we were not allowed to speak. If you notice the movie The Roots, and that has been, the only depiction of slavery that I know of that's so, vivid, how they prevented them from speaking their language. But remember, when they was in the bottom of the ships, each tribe were like calling out to their people because they recognized, like, listen, we're on a journey. We got to bound together. Already in their minds, yes, we were different tribes, but now we're one. We got to be one on this. So this is our tradition. Right now, this is the mindset that we should have. We may be different. We may have different beliefs, but we are one. We got the same oppressor. The oppressor that oppressed a Muslim is the same one that oppressed a non-Muslim. And when you Black, you getting treated the same way. So I don't understand. I think it was Zainab asked a question about why is it when something happens to a non-Muslim, like Muslims, like, well, they ain't got nothing to do with me. They're not Muslim. That is not the Sunnah. I don't know what kind of thing that is, but that's not the thing of Islam.
I want to add something.
Mm-hmm.
In the same book that I'm quoting, he just mentions in here, because I'm looking at the comments. And first of all, we have to understand that the image that a lot of us have when we think of Native American or Indian in our mind, you have to understand that there was a time when the United States government said that they was giving out land and different things to the so-called Indians, the Native people. And so a lot of what a lot of white people would do is they would pay the one who would recording the names of all of these Native Americans. They would pay them like $5 to get added to the Dulles rolls, they call it. And so the people who know about this, they call them $5 Indians, meaning they're not really Indian. They just white. And they imitating the culture and wearing feathers and stuff, but they white. Ain't no Indian in them, right? And so even in pictures, after a certain period of time, the photographs or pictures or drawings depicting Indians get lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. But in any case, he says under his entry in 1684, he says, The descendants of some of the early Muslim visitors of North America are members in many of our present-day Indian tribes. Some of the tribes are, I'll probably beat up the pronunciation, but I'm going to read it. Alabama tribe of Alabama, Apaches, Anasazi, Arawak, Arikana, the Black Indians of the Schuylkill River area in New York. I didn't know New York had a Schuylkill River. I know Pennsylvania does. Anyway, the Cherokees, Creeks, Maccas, Mohegans, Mohannets, Mohegans, Nanticotes, the Seminoles, the Zulus, and the Zuni. So he mentions how a lot of the native tribes here have Muslim Africans intermixed in with them. And so growing up, and people actually still do this in 2021. Like, I got Indian in my family. And a lot of times people say that because they want to disassociate from having African in your family. But the reality is a lot of us do got Indian in our family. That's the reality, right? And the Indian, a lot of times, don't look how you think they look, right? Like the $5 Indians, right? Indian look real similar to the African that you're running away from, because the Indian that you're really claiming is from Africa originally. But, alhamdulillah. So, you were saying something?
Nope, you interrupted me.
I didn't interrupt you.
Yes, you did.
All right, well, check this out then.
You better put yourself back on there. I was just looking in the comments about, let's see here. Kareem said the Moors, that term Moors. Yeah, I'm not sure about the different terms, that term using Germans and what have you, but that's definitely was a term that was applied to the Muslims. If I'm not mistaken, in Portugal, if I'm not mistaken, when the Muslims were in power at the time before their demise. But the point is that instead of saying that you're usually saying the Mohammedans, you hear different terms. They follow Muhammad, things like that. Just say that they're Muslims. Muslims, that's the point. Why clothe it in the different terms? They were Muslim. And then, and it's like I said, it's an agenda, because if you're pushing a certain agenda, right, it seems like, okay, in order to be Black, you can't ascribe to any religious institution. That's the white man's institution, that's the white man's doing. You hear that a lot, right? I'm not following no man. I'm I'm in control. I control my destiny. I control this and that and the other. And they are stripping you from your connection to Allah. They're stripping you of that because they want you to live according to your nafs. And when you live according to your nafs, you start thinking that you are Allah or God or what have you. Be careful. I've seen this happen. Okay? And when you mix in truth with falsehood, it turns people off. Like when I first became Muslim, I didn't think you could be Black and Muslim at the same time. Like it was a curse word to try to, have any, acknowledging your lineage. Like that's a no-no. But when you learn Islam the correct way, you'll realize how much damage people have done to us and still doing to us. Yet we still hold firm to this deen. It's only by Allah, His mercy and His commission that we have Islam today, because we have been fought teeth and nail. You couldn't speak your language. You couldn't practice your deen. Like we mentioned Bilal Muhammad. He was like, I'm Muslim. Do what you got to do. And we have explained a couple of shows before, if not the last show, how, when you're on your job, you're representing those that come after you. You got to be the strong one. It ain't about you. This deen is not about the individual. And yes, as an individual, you're responsible for your own deeds and actions and sins and such. But as a whole, as a community, we are one. We're like one body. And so, sometimes you may die standing up for your cause, for your deen. You may have to. And you got to not be afraid of that. Because Allah promised his believers, isn't those who do good aren't, don't they deserve good? I'm just this terrible translation. Ain't nothing but for good, but good. Like if you do the right thing, don't you know you're going to be rewarded for that? So us reviving, reconnecting to tradition, when you realize that does something to you. That gives you like, I don't know, it just revitalize your spirit. Like you feel like you have a purpose, and it's not just like, robotic, make it salat 5 times a day. Okay, I gotta fast. Okay, I gotta go to Hajj. And it's not robotic. This is in you. This is part of you. And this is part of a tradition that has been been attempted to be wiped out. And you have an opportunity to revive that for those that's going to come after you. Okay, when the enemies of Allah see something strong and real and true, they fight against that. Pay attention. They fight against that. They're not going to fight against something that is bull stuff. They're not going to do that. We got to wake up. They're going to fight against that thing that's going to attack their positions, their status quo, their money, their dollars. Listen, when you pay attention and look at that, be like, that must be the truth. And this history that we speak about affects non-Muslims too. Your family members, those are not Muslim, this is their history too. Whether they want to admit it or not, they came here from Africa. And they got established here. You have, people that say, well, I'm ADO, so I'm FBA, right? My history started here in America. Your history was just continue here in America. It didn't start here. How you know who you are here if you don't go back and reconnect? See, we're afraid to go reconnect because we've been told lies that we like jungle animals, animalistic, we swinging off of trees and, hanging out with the animals. Like we're so uncivilized. A lot of us been fed this and we believe this. Like, well, I didn't leave nothing there. When as we see that we had kingdoms, we were rich. We still rich. Africa is still rich, right, to this day. That's why a lot of foreign companies go there to set up shop and do business over there. And they make it hard for us. If we even try to attempt to do the same way, there was always some roadblocks, always something. But them foreign companies, Asia, Europe, France, all of that. France already got, certain territories that they still, demand taxes from colonizing those areas. So they still bleeding the people over there. But this is your history, whether you like it or not. And when you're taught to hate yourself, you're going to hate everything that looks like it. Anything that's black, you're going to hate it. It's just ingrained in some of us. Some of us, we know better, but some of us, we just been fed it so much that we just hate anything black. Nothing could be black. Nothing good could come from blackness. Nothing. And we have to admit, we have to turn this around. Because the Prophet ﷺ taught us, you're supposed to learn your lineage. You're supposed to learn that. Allah revealed in his Quran that he made us into nations and tribes so that we may know. Now you have that translation saying know one another. That's not what that word means. It's deeper than that. You got to know yourself, where you came from, and you get to know others. It's a reflexive verb. It's not that you just may know the other person. No, you got to know yourself, where you come from. Everybody else know where they come from. But us, no, you just Muslim. You're not black. Oh, that's Asabiya. Prophet ﷺ said Asabiya means helping your people in wrongdoing. Asabiya is not loving your people. You should love your people to death. Not to death, but injustice. Okay? And black people love to a fault. And not in a bad way. We just so sincere. We give our all. We're dedicated. We're such a great group of people. But we have been attacked, been all under all kind of scrutinies. You have even your own people tell you, well, what's wrong with you? Why you can't get right? Because the system had been set up against me. And no matter what I do, I can't do the same thing that a white person do. If I'm going after a goal, I cannot go the same way as that person. I got to work twice, if 3 times, if not 10 times harder, just to try to reach them, just to prove that who I am. We shouldn't have to do that. We shouldn't have to do that. SubhanAllah, I'm good. Brother Iman.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah. So we just kind of wanted to wet your taste buds a little bit. And this is something that needs to be revived. And we need to reconnect to it. We are part of a chain, and it's not. And we need to reconnect to it. This is one of the intentions behind, teaching the books that we teach. You can teach Islam from a wide variety of books, right? Even, we're Maliki, we teach Maliki fiqh, but there's a whole lot of books that we could teach Maliki fiqh from. But we try to have, we try to cure, at least 2 diseases with each single cure. And so, alhamdulillah, the books we teach from, they're well-known, well-established Islamic books. But at the same time, that most of them are from African scholars. And a lot of us, we don't want to admit it openly. We won't say it verbally, but we don't like ourselves. We don't trust ourselves. We don't think anything of ourselves. And the way you deal with a disease, because that's a sickness, that is a disease, that's not normal. Really, that's the normal is the opposite. To love yourself, to think highly of yourself, to think too much of yourself, right? That's the normal. We the opposite. We the only people on earth like that. Man, what's the saying? The white man's ice is colder. That's us. And it's not just the white man. Most of us, we think everybody's ice is colder.
Yeah. We're afraid of power.
Yeah.
We're afraid of being in charge. Like we waiting for somebody to help us. We wait for somebody else to solve our issues. We have all the solutions right with us. We got Islam.
Mm-hmm.
We got Islam. Islam covers all of that. It tells you how to, be in the world with other people, right? Everybody try to look at things one-sided, like with the Prophet ﷺ. Yes, he dealt with people. He was merciful, but he was realistic too. Like like to mention, this is going off from tangent, but just, he was real. When his uncle Hamza got killed, right, in the Battle of Badr, right? That was his uncle, his close uncle, right? His uncle Hamza, may Allah be pleased with him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the person that killed him was Washi, who wasn't a Muslim at the time. And so Washi, who was a slave himself, was able to, he took Shahada and was able to gain his freedom. And he went to the Prophet ﷺ. He excited about this news about becoming Muslim. And the Prophet ﷺ was like, okay, alhamdulillah, but I don't want to see your face again. Because that was his loved one. And it hurt him to see him. It reminded him of his uncle. So when we talk about, we got to be like, we got to be all, it's got to be a balance. Okay, you can be gentle and kind, and that's good. That's all in good. But then you got to be realistic. Sometimes you can't just have kid gloves dealing with people. They only know one language. You understand? And may Allah forgive me, but they only know one language. And so you got to have a balance. You can't just be too on one side and think, and okay, this is good. Like the civil rights, the movement, non-violent, tactics. Look how look what they went through. They was attacked. Dogs were sicked on them. Water was sprayed on them. Batons, being killed, being hanged, and the news front was lynched. Right? That worked, but so much. And even Reverend Martin Luther King, towards the end of his life, realized certain approaches is not effective. That's why they took him out, because he woke up. Malcolm recognized what he was up against. And then Martin finally, with his flaws, and nobody's perfect, because people like to say, well, he was this, he was that. It's neither here or there. He was out there speaking for the people. He woke up and they took him out. When they see power, you can't exist anymore. There's a movie about to come out with Fred Hampton. I'm sure it's not going to be, evidence-based and have everything, to the T as far as the information about his life. He was another one. He was a young man. I never met him before, but I love that brother. When I hear him speak and the recordings I see, I was like, he was a bad mamma jamma. He had to go. Look what they did to them. They lit his house up. He had an informant in his household, casing the house and told the police where everybody slept. It's always somebody from the inside. We forget that. It's somebody in between, like us Muslims. There's Muslims among us watching us and going back to the man and say, hey, this person's doing this and this is how they do whatever. That's how they get you. They don't have that information by themselves. Think about police officers and the detectives. They rely on informants to do their job, not them doing the police work. They got people there that they pay and everything to keep an eye on you. All right. But with all this being said, we should not be afraid. If you're not doing anything wrong, you should not be afraid. When you're marching, working towards justice for your people, you should not be afraid, even if it costs you your life, because that's what Islam represents. Justice for everyone, whether they Muslim or not. We don't have that balance. It's got to be one extreme or the next. It's a balance. When you got that balance, you are forced to reckon with. SubhanAllah. Hey, ma'am.
Takbir.
I want to show the book that you had mentioned, Deeper Roots by Abdullah Hakim Quick. This book is deep, y'all. This book is deep. I want to read a little bit because you had mentioned about the gold.
Yeah, that's probably an old edition too. I think he updated it at least a couple of times since then, but go ahead.
It was talking about the gold, how it was mixed. It was part gold, part silver, and part copper. And the Native Americans were trading. They was using that gold. That gold is not indigenous to America. That came from Africa. And even Christopher Columbus, according to this edition, it had a certain odor to it. It smelled a certain way. Remember, we was talking about when you go to Africa, the sister was talking about when you go to Africa or these places, the people know where you from. They know you're not not a native. And she was like, how? From your soap. You know how you wash your clothes. It's your scent. You know you ain't from here. You ain't got to open your mouth. You ain't from here. You smell like Tide. They don't have Tide over there. They got Woola over there. Whatever type of soap. Right? But this is indigenous to here in Africa. And they found evidence of this here in America. It had to travel over here. And Christopher Columbus wasn't the one that brought it over here. Even their clothing were indicative of African tradition. Certain ways they wore their clothes. And then here in this book, Dr. Abdullah Hakim Quick, he describes that. That is important to know. If you don't know this, you be thinking it's just what you see and what you're told. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one way, and it's not. We're colorful people. All this, all black, nothing wrong with that. But we are colorful people. We have colors. You know, you gotta welcome it. I put my little, my little African colors on today. I'm a colorful person. That way, I'm welcoming. Uh, I'm embracing my African, history. You know what I mean? Like, don't be ashamed of it. Wherever you from, embrace it. The good side of it. Not the bad side, not the oppressive side, but the good side of it. Be proud of who you are. That's what that verse represents. In Surah 49, ayat, what's the ayat? 49, ayat what?
13.
13. Read that ayat without that without the parenthesis part, so that you may know one another. No. Study your grammar. Those words, they have context. We got to read things in context, just like our creed. The words that are attributed to Allah, we know it has nothing to do with anthropomorphic, descriptions. You know for a fact. So your mind should not think that way. Everything is in context. Our deen is in context. Okay, it's not oppressive. It's a way of life that encompasses everything that we involve in. You know, but if somebody doesn't tell you, you don't know. And then you lose out from the sweetness of this deen, the sweetness of a man. So much so you have the sweetness of a man that you never want to go back to being a kafir. You would never want to return back to the streets and do the things that you used to do. Because you're afraid to disappoint your Lord. And you're afraid to disappoint your brothers and sisters that look up to you, that you don't even know look up to you. You just know that you represent a whole. And you're a part of that whole. SubhanAllah. But mashallah. I'm looking in the comments here, Habibi, where right here, there's a brother in Savannah that takes people on a tour of the places in history of our Muslim ancestors during slavery. That church is just one of the stops. And this is so important because, we're planning on this African tour. We're still working on it. And it'll include a tour here in America. And eventually we'll be branching out. We'll be going to Africa. We notated the country, but we want to get more details before we put it out there. And those who are serious, let's do this. Let's get connected with our roots. We get connected to our tradition. It's just going to make you better, and it's going to make your children better because they'll have something to look up to. You understand? When they only have things that's like when they go to school, they're not taught about Mansa Musa. What's public school talks about Mansa Musa unless it's a black public schools and there happen to be black people in there and they know that it ain't going to be taught in the books that's already. You understand? Depends on the type of school. What you got to say, Habibi?
They're gonna be, they're gonna be taught that your history starts in 1619 as a slave, and that's the beginning of your history. This, and this is part of the reason. I didn't say all. Part of the reason why, a lot of times we act the way we act. And I'm not just talking about like crazy or criminal behavior. A lot of times when you look at us, like we are like almost like depressed or defeated, in just the way we carry ourselves. Like we almost just like we just animals waiting for our turn to get slaughtered. And when you know where you come from and what you're connected to, you don't carry yourself like that. When you know that you're part of something rich, something powerful, it doesn't matter that you may be down right now or somebody else may got the upper hand right now. You know where you come from. You know that this is not you. And this is why a lot of us need to learn who we are. Because even like you mentioned, Abdul Rahman, Abdul Rahman, who, and it's funny because Bilali Muhammad, Abdul Rahman, Umar ibn Sa'id, all of them were Fulani, right? All of them came from Fula or Polar or Fulani background, or in Arabic Fulata, right? But he was captured by another African, so sold to the Europeans for slaves, and ended up in Natchez, Mississippi. And he was literally the son of an Amir. The son of an Amir. That's why they called him Prince. But when you look, and they did a little documentary, a little docudrama on him. I got the DVD. I'm gonna pull it out when you start talking. But they will call him Prince because using our modern vernacular, the way he acted, it was like we would say, "Oh, you bougie. You think you ain't a slave just like us, right?" He knew, okay, you got me. I'm here, my situation, but I'm better than this, man. This ain't me. And it just so happened that when he was younger, a European doctor got sick in Timbuktu, where he's from. And his father took care of him, had his own doctor look after him. He got back to health and gave him an escort back to his ship. And so the deep thing about it is this same European comes to Natchez, Mississippi decades later and sees Abdul Rahman. And he's like, whoa, he sees him in the market. Yo, what are you doing here? Yeah, I got caught up, slave now, whatever. And he's telling people, this ain't no regular slave. This dude is a prince. You don't know what you have here. You got royalty here. Right? And so I'm saying that all of us ain't necessarily descendants of our mayors or kings, but we not descendants of cotton pickers. Our history don't start here. We was taken from someplace, or we was here before the people started bringing slaves here. And when we know that, and that's part of our psychology, it's not a paragraph we just read in a book. When we know that and understand it, and it becomes part of us, you're gonna start acting different. Because when you know better, you do better. See, a lot of us don't believe. We believe, okay, this is just good presentation. You're going to hear a whole lot of these type of presentations because it's February 4th. It's going to be a whole lot of this till February 28th or 29th, however long February is. See, one sister said she's going to get married on February 31st, and people was like, congratulations. They got 31 days. People like, congratulations. Tell people don't read, right? It's just a comment. Or you get, mashallah, you get married February 31st. Mabruk. Bless you. Congratulations, right? So, but this stuff has to be a part of us. We have to know this. And psychologically, that'll do something to you. You won't act as if your default position is one of a loser, one that's destined to fail, one that's, if I just see a black face in authority, that's good enough for me. I don't need nothing tangible. When you start really knowing what you are, what you did, where you come from, you won't accept anything less from yourself or anyone else you deal with.
Everybody else do it.
Yeah.
They get what they want. They rally behind their cause and they push the agenda. And guess what? They make things happen whether we like it or not. We could do the same.
Yeah.
We can do the same. And at the same time, if we know what we can do better, we know that we can check each other. You understand? Yes, you may be in position, but listen, you falling short. You're not helping us. You're hurting us. You represent us. You are in a position to help us. Act right. Do what's right. Because we're dependent on you. All of us have that type of mentality.
Exactly. Like that's one of the differences between us and Africans that are still on the continent and connected with their people. They know who they are. And the average one, obviously, there's exceptions to every rule, right? But like, even like, for example, you marry an African sister and she can't just do what she want to do. Okay, I married this American or this Brit. He don't know what I'm supposed to do, so I'm gonna act ratchet. Her family ain't gonna let her do that. Her family gonna be like, no, you represent us. You better come right. You embarrassing the whole family. You better not act. You better not act up. A lot of times over there, we worry about domestic abuse, about, brothers or men hitting women. Over there, she don't gotta worry about the husband so much, even though it happens, but she gotta worry about her family, her disrespect, her acting out and destroying her family's reputation with her ratchet behavior. She gotta worry about her father, her uncles laying hands on her. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just saying the point is that they know who they are. They know who they represent. And they don't really appreciate you messing that up. Us, we don't have that. So we just, like individuals, I do what I want. Just destroy my family. What family? Destroy my family's reputation. I don't even know who my grandfather is. So what? So, and you see the difference. Africans on the continent are not intellectually smarter than us. But look at what they achieve. They know who they are. Is every one of them a historian about their family? No, but they can tell you a lot more about their family and the great people in their family than us. Even our family here, after slavery, right? How many of us, most of us don't know a lot of the good things that our family, people in our family did. And usually, if we can, it's like the first. My great grandfather was the first that white people allowed to do such and such, or my great grand aunt was the first. Well, it wasn't the first. How many of us know about our families who fought against the enslavement, who created this or created that? Do you think we African Americans have evolved into a different race since being here? I don't think that's a yes or no answer, because number one, race is a created construct. It's a new construct. So just if we even go with that, then we co-signing their division, their false division of humanity. But like even in Africa, like all of us are mixed. Even people, Africa never left Africa, they mix, right? So, but people, based upon the culture, will claim this culture or that culture. Like, for example, you go to Gambia, the major tribes there are Mandinka, Wolof, and Fulani. You got Sedokule. You got a whole lot of Sereri. You got a lot of different tribes there, right? But they're not like us, like, what are you? Well, I'm part Cherokee. I got a French grandfather. I got an Italian uncle, and I'm part black. We mentioned black last, right? Right. They're not like us. They're going to be like, I'm Mandinka. Even though the mother may have been Fulani, right? So I think, and I would just change your word evolve. I would say, what's the word? Like when we were bred like dogs for labor. Like, I think we were bred differently. And we were, mixed and all these different things. But different race, they created race. So you gotta ask them.
Wa alaikum salam to Sister Isla. Thank you for joining us. But these conversations has to happen, and we're hoping for this month of February, Black History Month, that we reconnect, revive, and may this inspire other fellow Muslims to reconnect and revive their history, their lineage. And then you always see it connected back to Islam. Right? It always connect back to Islam. Islam wasn't just brought to just one group of people. It was brought to mankind. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, we forget that. He was sent to mankind. It wasn't no particular, civilization. It was the whole world. Men and jinn. He was sent to all of them to deliver the message.
Assalamu alaikum. Do you think there is something intrinsic to our nature that's missing because of our time here? There is a time that certain things we did not do that we are now doing, i.e., their psychosis is now our psychosis. I 100% agree with that, and I say it all the time because you can even prove this, with text and Islamic sources. In fact, even Ibn Khaldun, he talks about this extensively in his Muqaddimah. But the Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said, "You are as those who are over you." And that kind of like be understood like two ways, In other words, the leaders of a people, come out of the people. So the people, if the general state of the people is ratchet, you're gonna get a ratchet leader, right? But it also could be, those who are ruling over you are going to determine how you will be. And so, like he mentioned that Ibn Khaldun, rather, he mentioned how people who are conquered, and we don't like to say we've been conquered, right? We live in under complete domination, right? We've been conquered. We don't like to admit that, right? But anyway, when people are conquered and they and they remain in that state for a long time, they begin to take on the culture and the traditions and the ways of those who conquered them. The deep thing about it is, everybody knows we follow Sheikh Uthman Dan Fodio, right? May Allah envelop him in his mercy. I mean, he was a wali of Allah. He was a protective friend of Allah. In 1803, he made a prediction that the Europeans basically is going to conquer his Khilafat. It was a deep thing because like many scholars wrote like about the blessings that Allah gave them, and he did the same thing. He said basically this blessing is going to last for about 100 years. The deep thing about it is the British invaded them in 1903, exactly 100 years after he said that. And the leaders and the scholars was writing about what we was discussing about what they should do or whatever, like how we going to deal with this and all this kind of stuff. And in one of the Qadis, Qadi Modibo Abdullahi Belal, or Qadi Modi Abdu, he basically wrote that we only got three choices. We can either fight them, we can have a treaty with them, or we can make hijrah from them. And he discussed each of these things, right? And then he basically said, that we have to make hijrah from them. But when he was talking about why we can't make a treaty with them, he said, number one, they're not going to respect the treaty. We too strong. They're too strong, and we're too sinful. So we ain't going to get the help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so one of the things he said that if we do this truce with them and they govern over us, then our people will abandon the noble, illuminated sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and take on the customs of the pagan Europeans. And pitch black innovation is going to spread all over the place. He said that in his fatwa.
SubhanAllah.
So a whole bunch of them made hijrah to Sudan and Arabia, and then a lot of them stayed. They created the modern country of Nigeria. And I don't need to say anymore. ...
It is an honor to know your lineage. Africans have a continent with a rich history to identify themselves. We as African Americans do not have that pleasure. Alhamdulillah, our isnad back to the Prophet ﷺ is most honorable. And
no doubt.
No doubt. And that's what we're speaking about today. It's connecting back to our tradition, our Islamic tradition. Even in Africa, even though we may not know who our tribe is, even though we can't pinpoint, but our tradition was through the African connection through Islam. That's
Exactly.
the point. Well,
That's
yeah.
a beautiful thing about Islam. Like for us African Americans, Afro Caribs, people in the Caribbean, these shayateen, by means of the slave trade, cut off our biological lineage. Like even if we try to trace our lineage, it goes back to some record in a ship, like we some cargo or something like that. Gunpowder, salt, molasses, rum, niggas. Literally, that's what it will say, right? Like the shipping manifest, right? The invoice,
Right.
right? So it's hit or miss finding out where you came from, biologically. Alhamdulillah, Allah has preserved in general our lineage by means of Islam.
Mashallah.
This
Yeah.
this is one of the things I was mentioning about and when in the Akhtari class the other day, why I mentioned the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd.
Mm.
Because a lot of times we doing stuff and people don't understand, why are you doing it? Like what, you know, why bring Sheikh Muhammad Rami over and ask him to teach us the Risala? Why we gotta learn that thick book? Why can't we just learn to do something smaller? Why we can't do this? Why we can't do that? You don't understand the significance of an African teaching you a Maliki fiqh book in America that is taught all over the place in Africa. You like a lot of times people don't see it. We trying to wake up your ancestral memory. Yes, you may not know biologically who your fathers was, but the Islamic tradition is still intact.
Mhm.
You know, the Islamic tradition is still intact. Akhdari is still taught on the African continent. The Risale of Ibn Abi Zayd is still taught on the African continent. And this is our connection back to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
So,
There's many other books that are well known and taught on the African continent, like Tafsir Jalalain, Shifaf Qadiyad. We go on and on and on, right? So, this is one of many ways to reconnect back to your heritage. And that's another difference between us and continental Africans. Going back to what Kelsey asked, right? We Africans got the same problem we got. Like, cause after the European Shayateen kidnapped Africans and brought them over here, in other words, they extracted the human resources out of the continent. When they got enough of us over here, they said, okay, slavery is now outlawed. We're abolitionists now. We don't condone slavery, right? Then they had the Berlin Conference and said, okay, now we going to Africa, and now we're gonna colonize them and take out the mineral resources. We got the human resources. Now we're gonna get the mineral resources.
and still doing it.
And
Still.
so, and they still doing it, and they just tweak it. They're not there directly, right? But they set up people to be there, to take care of, to operate in their interests. And but the Africans on the continent and us, we got the same issue, the same problem, same enemy, right? So us, one of the different what they did with us is they wiped out our collective memory, our history, our lineage, which is a major crime in Islam. It's called hifzul nasab. Every human being has the right to know who he is.
Hmm.
That's a genocide and a crime against humanity that we are living proof of every day, right? So they did that to us while they're over there, extracting and killing and kicking off and inciting tribal feuds and escalating it for them to fight and commit genocide against each other, create all these false borders and and all of that to get the mineral resources. But the point I mentioned all of that is the one doing it to us and them is the same person. We forget that, right? And so we look at each other as the enemy. But the difference that they have is that because they're still on their land, they know who they are. They know their history.
Hmm. SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. That's deep. These conversations have to be had. You know, like SubhanAllah. Like this can open up so much potential. You know what I mean? Yes, we're talking about Africa. It'll just open up more opportunities here because of our connections in Africa. We gotta stop, shortchanging ourselves and limiting ourselves. It's not just one way. You know what I mean? Allah will give us victory on different planes. We gotta stop limiting ourselves.
We actually need each other because they tore us from each other. It's like, you can kind of look at it just a random parable that came to my mind. Us, Africans in the diaspora and Africans still on the continent. It's like you take $1 and you rip it. And then half of the dollar goes that way and the other half of the dollar goes the other way. As long as that dollar stays separate, it ain't no good. You can't spend it. But when you put that dollar back together, now you're able to do something. You're able to buy something with it. They tricked us into keeping the dollar separate. Or even if I ain't got no problem with the other side of the dollar, but why? We don't need them. I'm here. Yeah, but you can't do nothing. You can't buy nothing, right? Just like, and people always, and it happens. It's not like it's not true, but because people always want to incite the so-called beef between African Americans and Africans on the continent. There ain't no beef. We just don't hardly interact with one another. And so, like, the first time I heard the word akata, you already know, right? There's a movie called Sugar Hill. I like that movie. Wesley Snipes. And he's a drug dealer. And his brother's trying to get a new connect to get some drugs in. I believe it was heroin. And so they trying to get plugged in with the Africans, the Nigerians. And so he set up the meeting, the brother, to meet with Wesley Snipes, and they're in the club. And the man is like, we want to do business, but we just can't. I'm sorry, I can't do business with Akata. So Wesley Snipes is like, Akata? African American, cotton picker, right? And so he beats him up and all that kind of stuff. But that's really a word, and and it's a slur. It's a derogatory term that a lot of people in that area use for African Americans. And a lot of times they'd be playing games like, oh, it don't mean nothing bad, whatever. But if you go on their Twitter pages or whatever like that, like say for example, you have a girl that's from there, and she's dating an African American, they be like, oh man, why you messing with that akata? Leave that akata alone. They say, oh, that just means like a untamed or undomesticated animal that don't know his roots or lineage. They come up with all kind of excuses, right? So people will take ignorant people like that and say, see, that's why Africans can't get along with Americans. And then on the other side, they'll take a few of us acting stupid in school and be like, man, when I went to school in America, and when I was in America, the African Americans treated me bad. They called me African booty scratcher. Right? Like, anybody know about African Americans, even if the African wasn't there, all of us got ranked on. All of us got made fun of. You could have a ketchup stain on your shirt one day, and you're gonna get dragged for that the whole year. Right? This is how we did it. This just us. That culture that Kelsey was talking about. This is what we do, in America. And so I think the way that we can fight against is that we got to interact with each other. And the deep thing about it is, goes back to what Sister Isla said. A lot of times these problems are heightened when Islam is not in the picture, right? But as an African American Muslim, when you're dealing with African Muslims, it's a whole different ball game. Like, we watch all these people who have issues dealing in Gambia, right? And we don't have no problems. Why? Not only because I'm Muslim, but it was a Muslim imam who connected me over there, right? It's a lot of times the way you get introduced to a situation determines how things go on later on. A lot of people, you like you mentioned earlier, a lot of people are trying to leave Islam out the situation, and they're making it hard for themselves. I'm ranting. Oh, go ahead. What you got on screen? Imam Naeem, in speaking to Africans, do they have regret for their ancestors' role in our loss of lineage, in our loss of ancestral lineage? To be honest with you, most of the Africans that I've ever spoke to on the continent don't really know. They don't really know, the history. Some of them think that African Americans, maybe our great grandfathers or grandfathers came here, grandparents came here, and we just turned our back on Africa. We don't care. Some of them think that. Some of them, and the ones that do know about slavery and all of that, a lot of them, they know about slavery, but they don't know really how horrific it was. They just know slavery, okay, maybe some kind of tribal thing. They don't really know. They don't have a context. And when some of these movies come out, like I remember, I believe it was last year, I was in Gambia watching 12 Years a Slave. And I asked my wife over there, I said, you seen this before? And she said, yeah. I said, that really happened, right? She said, huh? I said, yeah, that really happened. I said, this movie is based on a book. He wrote a book, and this is what really happened. And she was like, she thought it was just a movie, a dramatization, and all that stuff. So, a lot of them that know, they don't really know. Mm-hmm. They don't really know. And so and you got to understand also in Africa, it ain't like here where you just got, where they basically force you into the school system and then you could find a loophole to get out. Education ain't really forced like that in most of those countries, but the ones who choose to go to the state-run schools, i.e., want to be British schools or want to be French schools or whatever, they ain't teaching that in those schools. So it's usually when they connect with real people like us who know our history that they actually get schooled. And I don't really necessarily blame them for not knowing our history, because most of us don't know our history. So if we don't know our own history, how can we be mad if they don't know our history? Oh, but one thing I wanted to mention in that last question, Isla, is that every time that, in my experience, and I explain the horrors of, slavery and what it actually entailed and all that kind of stuff, once they get a good understanding, it always happens. They look at you like, and you're back here as a Muslim after they made you Christian. They forced you to be Christian. They wouldn't let you read or write. They killed you. They raped you. They did all this for hundreds of years. And here you are standing in front of me on Africa right now. Subhanallah. They look at you like you some type of superhero. Like, so, wow. Like, subhanallah. You're literally a miracle. This is how they look at you. I'm not exaggerating. Shukran, Imam. Second part to my question, Imam Naeem. Does that separate us within the diaspora? Meaning there is a separation between Muslims and non-Muslims. Is there an U.S. and them among
us? Us and them.
us and them among our own people. Should our primary focus be on dawah, building bridges and removing the fitna between us so that we can become as close to being one people as possible? I think we have to learn that, everybody not going to become Muslim. But I think we just have to do the work and include them with us. And like I forgot what show we did, but I think this is one of the problems on a smaller scale. Like, for example, in the prisons in New York. Because when I was in prison in New York, just to give you an example of what I'm talking about on a smaller scale. When I was in prison in New York, the gangs from the West Coast hadn't made it to the East Coast yet. Now, by the time I came home and went back in to start volunteering, a lot of the Muslims were complaining that a lot of these Muslims want to be Bloods now. And fast forward to 20 some odd years later, meaning last year for me, I'm watching these interviews on YouTube. I'm in Pennsylvania now, but anytime there's a documentary or key figures from New York City during my area do a podcast or a video or an interview, I'm always watching, right? So a lot of these people that started the blood gang in New York, and you let them tell their story, they all said we was on Rikers Island. The Puerto Ricans had their gangs. They had Latin Kings, Nietas, La Familia, and they began to roll on us. And by that time, the Jamaicans didn't help us. A lot of us were 5%ers, but we was weak. We came to the Muslims, and they didn't help us. They was only worried about Muslims. And so we had to find a way to organize ourselves. And so that's how we became Blood. Then we got our weight up. We start fighting them. And then some of them said, "Yeah, we got the Muslims too. They couldn't deal with us." I'm like, so this is in the era right after I came home. So I'm thinking, what was we doing as Muslims in the prison? And I'm like, I could see how they were saying was right. Muslims only worry about Muslims. And you want to know why? Because we were indoctrinated by others to ignore who we are, Black. And as Muslims, we should have been like, hold on, what's the situation? There's some oppression going on. We're going to intervene. Mm-hmm. In one of the prisons that I was in, I remember we intervened. Just to give you an example, Ogdensburg Correctional Facility. The Nietas was the new gang. And they kind of like, at least I don't know, but in my estimation, La Familia got kind of weak. So Nietas was about to fight the Latin Kings. And long story short, they start snitching on each other. So the police know something was about to go down. And the warden, what they call him, New York superintendent, came to the Muslim imam. He said he didn't want no big bloodshed like that in his prison. He said, "Can you intervene?" And so we went to the yard and we intervened. We made peace. I'm saying that to say that the Muslims have always been about justice and, all that kind of stuff. And so we don't have I don't know where this mindset come where we only think about Muslims, y'all go kill yourselves. It's as long as we're not involving Muslims. No. So here it is, Muslims, at least at that time in New York State was almost synonymous with being Black. We intervened in stopping some bloodshed between two Puerto Rican gangs. And so I'm saying that on a small scale. So on a large scale, talking about Africans in the diaspora, we got to stop only caring about ourselves. We got to care about all our people. We have to care about all our people. So it's not just about Muslims. It's about all of us. I saw some more questions. What you doing over there?
I was trying to find that verse. I think it's Surah 4, ayat 90. You know what I'm talking about?
What does it say? in English?
It says, let me see here.
Are there dua, azkar, dhikr, or even sihr? Sihr, meaning magic, right? We can obtain. Now, we don't want to attain no magic, right? uh, I know what you mean, though. Uh, uh, or we can attain and perform collectively to push towards victory. Oh, yes. There's a lot of things we can do. There's a lot of things we can do. And you know that's one of the secondary harms of the Wahhabi movement because they cut you off from all of those things. They made it haram to do tawassul with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, they restrict dua to the masnoon dua. A lot of them, the duas that's explicitly related to us from our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But there's a there's countless amount of dua and afkar that we can use for our protection and to push towards our victory. So the answer is yes. The answer to your question is yes. That's why you got to watch out for the Islamic version or the Muslim version of white supremacy, aka the Wahhabi movement, because they cut you off from the tools needed for your liberation. You think you ain't got no tools to win when you got a whole arsenal of stuff to win. Yeah, most of the ones that I talk to, I've been to East Africa and West Africa. I haven't been to a lot of countries. I haven't spent a lot of time, but everybody who I talk to, like, either they don't know about it at all or they know very little. It's part of their history too. My ancestors didn't migrate here. I believe if they knew this history, maybe they'd embrace us more. Yeah, they would. But that's why it's important for people like us to not only talk to each other and teach ourselves, we need to teach them. Because, just like we're being attacked. A lot of us, we're being attacked by the Wahhabi movement, all that. They're getting the same attack over there. So a lot of places, traditional Islam is not being taught. A lot of them, they're being cut off from their own history, right in the urban areas. You got to go deep in the cut somewhere, or like in Gambia, upriver to get that good traditional Islam. But in the city areas, man, is that type of stuff. So that's why those of us who know better, we have to not only, preach to the choir, us, we need to go back and educate them. And it's easy for them to check. They're still there. They can verify this stuff. Like, I go to Gambia. So, Gambia is where Kunta Kinte is from. They can easily check. And usually when I go to Kunta Kinte's village, we go spend a few minutes with his descendants, or not his descendants, but, his father's descendants. A martial arts student of mine from Kenya told me that the school they went to taught them that a white man discovered the Nile River. SubhanAllah. I believe it too. So they should have become Al Rukns then. Yeah, right? He's talking about the gangs in New York.
The surah that I was talking about was Surah Al-Anfal, Surah 8, Ayat 46. The translation, it says, obey Allah and his messenger, sallam, and do not dispute each other, so you lose heart and your power depart. Like, nobody gonna respect your gangster. You already, fighting amongst each other, and you can't get along. How you expect to build and and help fight justice for other people if you ain't even being just amongst yourself? And that's the result. All this fighting, that's why we're weak.
Yeah.
That's why the Muslim sisters, I know for myself, I don't feel safe when I'm in the streets. When I'm with you, Habibi, but I'm just saying, like, if I'm in the street, I don't feel like safe if a Muslim brother's out there. I feel like I got to hold my own. That's how it is. It's gotten bad. It's gotten that bad. Sisters don't feel safe anymore.
I remember we was living in New York, right? And I remember this, because of my background from prison, right? You know, you know, we mentioned it yesterday. I think all of the emails mentioned how, we all wanted family. And, you know, when a Muslim person thinks about family, we automatically mindset protection. So I remember being, a newly free Muslim, in New York City. I remember, like, I would see, for example, Muslim sister on the street or a Muslim sister on the subway, and I would, say salam alaikum. And, a lot of times they wouldn't return the greetings back. And I can understand from a fiqh perspective, but these sisters ain't no fiqh, right? Right. A lot of times the energy was like, brother, stop flirting with me. And I didn't say I never said like in a flirting type of voice. The intention behind it was like, I'm letting you know there's a Muslim brother on this train, so you cool. You ain't by yourself. I'm here. That was the kind of intention behind it. Well, I remember a lot of times it was like, like, oh, stop. Don't even smell yourself like this. It ain't even like that. I was just letting you know there's another Muslim brother in there.
It might have been
fast forward to 2021. I wish I can almost guarantee that a lot more sisters would wish that there was more brothers like that now. Because you got sisters getting all kind of stuff done to them, and brothers is not doing nothing. They recording it on their phone.
I was gonna say it was probably so many Muslim brothers hitting on them. They're like, you just wanted to, one of many. You know what I mean? Taking advantage. So
we got to be able to tell. We got to learn how to read energy and body language. You should know when somebody's trying to flirt with you. Sound like a rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sister. How you doing?
Mashallah. But like I was stating earlier, this is one of many series within this month of Black History that we're going to be talking about reviving, reconnecting to our Islamic tradition. That's the key word, Islamic tradition. And we have said it before. Islam is like a filter. So whatever background lineage that you come from, anything that contradicts the book and the sunnah, in our way, it gets rid of. It gets filtered out of it. Everything is fair game. We be thinking it's separate. Islam is a filter. It's to enhance your life. It's not to erase what came before it. You know what I mean? It's just like saying, my Muslim, my parents wasn't Muslim, so they don't matter anymore. That's my part of my lineage. That's my, that's how I got here. I can't erase them out of the equation because they didn't follow the same way I did. So we gotta have common sense. Our goal is messed up with some of us, and it's not their fault. It's everything. It's a whole lot that make that possible. And may Allah, give us back our strength and our goal and our, our insight, and our right, Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So I think we can wrap it up for tonight, Habibi. You have any closing words that you want to mention before you close out?
MashaAllah. I thank everyone to joining in and joining in the conversation and interacting. We really appreciate that because this is not us, just talking to you. This is a conversation. This is a community. If you haven't recognized it, this is a community. And so this is coming from, this perspective. And you have other platforms that come from different perspectives. And, Allah, may Allah bless all those initiatives because we need it. We need it. But there's a ticker at the end of the bottom of the page. You know that we belong to the community of Masjid al-Mu'min in Pittsburgh. And we are, we depend on your donations. Everything that we rely on you. Everything that gets paid as far as the, the utilities, the upkeep of the building and what have you. It comes from you, and may Allah reward you for your generosity. So you can donate. No amount is too small. We got Cash App. You can send a check to Masjid Al Mu'min. Write it in the care of Masjid Al Mu'min. Our address is on our website, www.masjidalmu'min.org. I'll put it in now. Can you put that in the comment? We have PayPal. If you're in town and want to come by the masjid and put it to the Sedega box, you are welcome to do that. But this is how we can, develop programs, and we're committed to our 10-point Medina program. You could see more explanation of that 10-point Medina program, but this is how we can, facilitate and build Medinas all over the United States, here and abroad, wherever you may be. It's a good template because it's everything that the Prophet ﷺ, if not like a portion of what he taught us. So it's just the basic. It's easy. It's just, just the foundation that you could, that you have, that you can build on to safeguard your deen. This is all about preservation, our deen, mashallah. With that being said, I thank you all for participating, and may Allah bless your families. May Allah bless you. May Allah bless your home, your work, your means of sustenance. May Allah bless you and continue to provide, and may Allah, send down sakina to those that are going through, and may Allah help you and improve your health, and pray for those that are sick right now. Pray for those that are going through, a test. Don't forget about, those people. Check in on them. Let them know that you love them, family members, whether they Muslim or not. But mashallah, mashallah, so much. But with that being said, we'll close out. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Let's recite Surah Fatiha. Juma Mubarak, make sure you read Surah Kaf. Send abundant prayers upon the Prophet ﷺ. Pray for the Ummah, for yourselves, and may you have a blessed Juma. And we'll see you next week, inshallah. Masjid Al Mu'min, not Masjid Al Mu'min, Masjid Muhammad of Atlantic City. Every day this month, they'll be having a program, I believe, between 8 and 9. I think a session for next week, Wednesday, they're going to continue with the Black Imams Roundtable regarding the brothers and their backgrounds as far as being in prison and how their Islam was preserved, mashallah. So I invite you to participate in that as well, mashallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Alhamdulillah.